Namaskar. My heartfelt greetings to all of you on this beautiful Sunday morning. A few days back, I had recorded a small video on what is awareness. A friend has asked for some tips on how to live a life of awareness. Now, the fact of the matter is that in spirituality, we must learn to speak through what we have practiced and what has sustained our practice. So I must be honest and confess that I too am just a student like any other and am learning about a life of awareness. So, any thought of teaching others about awareness does appear to be somewhat presumptuous. However, there is one area where I think I can offer a few useful tips, and this is in the area of giving feedback. Whether we know it or not, or whether we realize it or not, we are always giving and receiving feedback. Some of it we are doing consciously, but a lot is happening unconsciously. Why? Because we are wired by our belief systems, traditions, sanskars. As a result, we just do not take a pause to fashion our responses. We just operate through an inner mold without ever being conscious that this mold traps us or binds us. It stops us from being free. When it comes to giving feedback, my impression is that most people avoid it. Why? Because giving feedback is often considered unpleasant. So we keep postponing things and keep tolerating the other person somehow. And then there comes a day when we decide to give feedback. And it is more like a volcano that has erupted. Very soon the other person stops listening to us. But we went ourselves nevertheless. Now, what does this kind of feedback achieve? The answer is nothing. It fails in its intended purpose because the other fellow has stopped listening and he doesn't improve. And our relationship with this person is destroyed once for all. So, what do we do? We just cannot escape giving and receiving feedback because feedback is built into the very nature of all human interaction. It is built into everything that we do, our gestures, the way we look at others, the way we hold our hands, the way we point our fingers, the kind of words we use, the kind of energy we give to our words, and what is the tone in which we speak. So we have to be careful. Are we paying attention to our words? Are they measured? Have we contemplated what effect these words would have on others? Have we fashioned a response that is rooted in our mental construct? Or is it rooted in our awareness? We all know that very often a stony silence can be far more vocal and far more lethal than a barrage of words. So, why should we be aware all the time of the feedback we are giving? The answer is simple. We are not here in this world on a standalone basis. We are part of a collective. Whether we know it or not, we are connected with all other souls in this cosmos. More so, those souls that are around us and with whom we have to deal. So it's not an accident that we find ourselves with the people we are. It is by design. Some would say it is God's will, but the spiritualist would put it slightly differently. The people and circumstances we have in our lives are there because we chose them for learning certain valuable life lessons. That is, we are here in this world to grow spiritually. And can we grow spiritually in isolation? Perhaps, perhaps not. But we all can perform a very noble duty towards others. We can serve this existence by creating an environment where we do not grow in isolation. We help every other person we come in contact with grow. And how to do that? And the answer is simple, by being more mindful of the feedback that we are giving. In our interactions, we must keep continually asking ourselves, are we being supportive to the other persons? Or are we being destructive? By being more aware in this regard, we can contribute a lot to the lives of people who are around us. Just look at this world and see what is happening. There is so much of intolerance, so much despondency. Psychosomatic diseases are on the rise. Young people who should be filled with zest for life are committing suicides. Why? Because as a society, we have stopped treating human beings with empathy and love. People feel that they are alone. They have been forsaken. Nobody wants to listen to them. Nobody is going to give them a helping hand. And then there is a very harsh system that judges them with very exacting standards. It can be our chance to present a more human face to others and to bring about a positive change on a personal plane. Spirituality tells us that every human being is precious. The self, the divine fragment, the Atman, resides in everyone. So the first rule is that everyone is worthy of our respect. Do we approach everyone with respect and love? If not, we can certainly become more mindful of that. Some may start wondering that if one must be respectful and loving towards everybody at all times, what does one do about the errant fellows? How are they going to be corrected? And does it mean that we just don't give any feedback to anybody? It is not so. But before I tell you what to do, let me share a secret with you. There is this ancient saying, amantram aksharam nasti, nasti moolam anaushadham, ayogyah purusho nasti, yojakah tatra durlabha. Now, if we translate this in English, it means there is no alphabet which does not have the power of a mantra. There is no root which does not have any medicinal quality. And there is no human being who is completely devoid of merit. What is rare is the arranger, the yojak, who can use their innate quality in the best possible way. So all of us are here as the arrangers, and we have to help other people grow. So how do we start? Giving feedback is a divine duty that we have to perform. So the first rule is that we must begin our feedback by first focusing on some good quality that a person has and speak to him about it appreciatively. And this is a very important first step because it immediately creates a bond between us and the other person. And he will become receptive to what we have to say later. And after this bond has been created, then we can give that person some input about the areas where he has to improve or where we think that he is wanting. And because he has already turned receptive, he won't resist the suggestion for this improvement. But it's not as simple as that. There are some more do's and don'ts. Now, let me come to that. A person may be lacking on several counts. So we must be careful how much of that lack we bring before him in any feedback. Because we must be mindful of the fact that a person can work only on a few action points at a time. If we just swamp him with everything that he has to improve upon, he will be overwhelmed. He will be completely disheartened and devastated. And he will never do, it will never be possible for him to make any improvement whatsoever. We would have succeeded in finishing him forever by our feedback. So the key is to be patient and to ask the person to work on only a few issues at a time, and other areas can be added. There is another tip. Suppose you are starting a feedback and you begin by telling a person, well, Mr. So and so, I have noticed this particular quality in you. It is very nice and I appreciate that. So you think that a bond has been created. And then you come to your real point and you say, oh, but you need to improve in such and such areas. The moment you use the word but, you have killed all the harmony, resonance, or trust that you had created earlier. Human mind is suspicious. So when you speak about what a person must add to himself or herself, better use the conjunction and avoid but. But is poison. On the other hand, if you use the word and is harmless. You can always say, well, Mr. So and so, I am so happy with you on this point, and your potential can be better served by nurturing some other qualities. And let us discuss that. I am sure the person will start looking upon you as a guide or a mentor, and he will always look up to you. You will be starting a long term relationship of trust and hope. And you would play a constructive role in the life of that person for nurturing him. Everything I have said so far boils down to a practical effort. We must carefully choose what we have to say. This is important. But how we say it is equally important. So be more mindful of what I had said in the beginning. Be aware of your gestures. How you look at others conveys a lot to them. The way you hold your hands, point your fingers. What is the tone of your voice? when you speak to others? Are you really paying attention to your words as you speak or write? Are they measured? Have you contemplated what effect they would have on others? Are you speaking to people through your mental construct or through your awareness? And before I end, I must share my own experience. Some 30 years ago, I was asked to do some public speaking in a program in my guru's ashram. I was not a speaker, and I had this firm belief that I cannot do this. And sure enough, I did a bad job. My stuff was all right, my words were right, but there was something innately wrong with me. I was not comfortable with what I was doing. So I made too many mistakes. To put it mildly, it was a disaster. At some point of time, at some level, I was really disappointed with myself. And that evening, while I was taking a walk, I met this lady who had been my tutor for this program. And she was an actress of sorts, very elegant, very beautiful. She had a great way of telling stories, and she could emote everything that she used to say. I was just the opposite of her. And we started walking side by side, and I told her it was a disaster today. Was it not? And she could have given me 10 points that I had to work on: my posture, my tone, the absence of smile on my face, how I was stiff, my hands were frozen, they didn't move. I had delivered everything in a very flat monotone, which nobody would want to listen. There was no emotion, there was no naturalness. She did not give me any feedback on any of these things. I could see she was measuring her words, what to say to me and what not to say to me. And then she said, "Well, Mr. God, I have a feeling that when you speak, people would want to listen to you." She saved me that day because she accepted me as I was. She created that sense of oneness and trust, which could be used, and I could be helped. Later on, I received feedback on every single point I was lacking. But I did not take it as my criticism. I took it as help that I needed. And I worked upon these things. That is how I have the courage to come and speak to you today. A good feedback can help a person. You are helping yourself when you build the community around you, when you build the family around you. So, follow these simple checks and balances, and we all can become friends to humanity and serve it in a wonderful way. Thank you all. Have a great day and be blessed.